Hello and welcome back to my channel, and today I am going to do a recap movie review of The Dark and the Wicked exclusively on Shudder right now. So if you guys like my narrations, go ahead and tell me in the comment section below, hit the like button and subscribe button. But without further ado, let's get to The Dark and the Wicked. In West Texas, there is a farmhouse that Michael is making his way to. It's his childhood home where his sick father is bedridden. The wind blows like nobody cares. The windmill swings in the dust as the sun goes down. The goats on the farm head to their shelter. An old woman is making a dress and singing, "Troubles and temptations. Is there any trouble anywhere?" Bottles clattering. A wind chime, you would say. A string of bottles that are hang around the goat's shelter to work as an alarm to keep them in or keep other things out. The old lady writes in her diary. She hears wolves howling in the distance. The goats are standing still in the shelter, and all of a sudden the windchime makes a loud noise. In the middle of the shelter, it looks like there's a demon with glowing eyes. As soon as it appears, it is gone, and then the wind stops. The old lady is now chopping up vegetables with a sharp knife. Chop, chop, chop. The chair slides out from the table and she turns around, and the chair is facing her, and as she looks at it, The Dark and the Wicked title screen. In the morning, Michael's sister shows up to the farmhouse, where she goes inside and she sees Mama. And she says, "Michael showed up a few hours ago. I told you not to come. You don't need to be here." "I know, Mama." Michael and Charlie, the neighbor, is working on a trailer outside. Luis walks up. The sister, "You guys need some help?" Michael says, "Mom looks bad." She says, "Mom looks like shit." "Well, I am glad that you guys are out here to help," Charlie says. After dinner that night, Michael says, "It's gonna be okay, Mama." "What's gonna be okay? You're both stupid. I told you you shouldn't have come home." The kids now are outside catching up, drinking some beers and smoking some cigarettes. "We can't leave her." "Well, she might not want to leave." "Yeah, maybe." Michael goes in to take a shower while Louise slams the door shut because it's hard to shut. She walks over to the kitchen sink and she grabs a glass of water. The door opens up and she turns around to see it. And she puts the glass of water down and walks over to the door and shuts it and locks it. She walks back to the kitchen sink, and in the doorway to her mother and father's room stands a dark figure that she doesn't see. "What was that?" "Oh, just the wind." Mother singing, "Trials and temptations. Is there trouble anywhere?" And she's chopping up vegetables while Michael looks at her and says, "I'm going to bed." Mother stays up and chop, 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 chop. She's chopping up the vegetables. She hears the chair sliding over once again. She doesn't turn around to look at it this time, but she continues chopping, chopping, chopping. And then all of a sudden, she chops off her finger. And she's just like, "Ow!" And then she starts chopping off the rest of her fingers. And now it's Tuesday. Michael wakes up seeing fingers in the sink with blood everywhere. The kids, they go out looking for Mama. They're yelling, looking for her mom. And then Louise sees her hanging in the goat shelter. Michael comes to help cut her down, but it is too late. She is dead. She hung herself, so it seems. Wednesday. Still at the house of their dying father in his deathbed, the nurse shows up to help out like she does every day. She's talking to Luis and she says, "Your mother would say things when she didn't think I could hear." Well, what did she say? She would sit right there beside him and talk, but she wasn't talking to him. She was talking to somebody else, like somebody was here. Later that day, Charlie takes them to the goat graveyard where Luis asks, "Who was she talking to?" "It doesn't matter. Didn't know what she was doing," Michael says. "Why would you say that? She chopped off her own fucking fingers in the kitchen. She made herself die. Nothing makes sense." Luis now is going to take a shower and she hears the door open and footsteps walk towards her. "Give me 3 fucking minutes." She opens up the shower curtain and it's her father standing there with his eyes all white, and piss starts running down his leg and his head starts to shake radically. Michael runs in and his father is not there. He is in his bed sleeping. "He wasn't in there. Fuck, Louise. Do you want to talk about it?" "I don't. I'm gonna go have a cigarette. I'm stupid. It was just stupid." As Michael walks by the bed, a diary falls down on the floor and he picks it up. He walks out and he says, "I found Mom's diary." "Well, what? Did you look in it?" "I read the last page." "Well, what did it say?" "I know he is there in the darkness. Help me, please. He is killing David. He can't breathe anymore. There's nothing I can do to stop it. Devil, devil, devil. He wants David's soul." Thursday, Michael and Luis are out in the goat shelter. "How did she even get up here? She was 3 feet in the air." "I don't know." Luis starts to read from the diary. "The voices in my head. His voice making me want to die. I locked the door, but he came inside my room. I want David to wake up. I grab his hand. I squeeze his hand. Wake up!" Michael says, "Luis, stop it." "The sound has so many mouths. He climbs on the bed. He hurts David. I can hear him. Luis, I see him. He laughs at me. He kills me. I'm already dead. I'm dead." Later that day, they go to the morgue to see the body, and the mortician says she had these on her, and it's a bunch of religious medallions. At night, Louise is tending to her father, David, and he starts coughing, and all of a sudden, a spider comes out of his mouth. The spider is crawling all over him, and Louise is trying to smack it off of him, but the spider goes under the blankets. Michael runs upstairs. "Is everything okay?" "I thought I saw a spider." "Well, did you get him?" No." She goes outside to smoke and she hears wolves howling in the distance. Everyone now is in bed and Michael is sleeping when all of a sudden you hear the light switch on. Click. He wakes up and he gets out of bed and he walks over to the light switch and he turns it off. And then he crawls back into bed. Click. The light switch turns on again. He looks at the light, and then he looks at the light switch, and then he gets up again. He turns it off, and he looks out the window. He sees nothing. He walks over to the other window, and he sees his dead mom. And then she starts to float 3 feet off the ground. and he hears behind him, "What friend we have here?" He walks away from the window, and his dead mom appears behind him. He turns on the light switch and she disappears. And now it's Friday. Thunder and rain is coming down. Louise walks up to the mirror and she has lipstick and red marks all over her face. She runs to David's room and she finds lipstick in his bed. The phone rings. She goes and answers it and says, "You have reached the wrong number. Please try again." She hangs up the phone and it rings again. She picks it up. "I told you not to come." And now Michael is driving back to the farmhouse in the rain when he comes upon a priest standing in the rain, and he pulls over and stops. "Can I help you?" "Michael, now I was hoping that we could have a little talk. You look like your mother." And then he hands over a religious medallion. Now they go inside to the house with the preacher, and he says, "I want them if it is them. But I hear their voices. They call. But what if it is a lie? He won't stop. They will die. We're dead already." Spiders out of my face like tears. And Luis looks over at him when he mentions spiders. My, I started to come see her. She was so scared and alone. I was here for her. I wanted to meet you. She loved you both so much. I just thought if you like, I could help. Michael says, "I think you've done enough. I didn't know about any of this." As he looks down at the diary, Louise says, "This doesn't happen overnight. She had thoughts in her head, came from somewhere in this house. You came to this house. You are here." Michael says, "Do you want to understand? My mom never even believed in God. Never did. But my mom had thoughts that the devil was here, but she didn't believe. What does it matter what she believed? Do you think a wolf cares if you believe that it's a wolf? Not if he finds you alone in the woods." "What did you say to her?" "I told her the truth." "No, you told her the truth," Michael says. "Well, maybe so. Well, I guess the same about you and yours. You need to go. This isn't helping us." "I didn't want to get you upset." "Well, you do, and I'm not going to sit here and listen here like you didn't feed her this shit. She needed someone. I think you both knew that. She was alone. They both were alone." As the preacher stands up, "I didn't do that. I helped." "Did you?" "Yes, I did. How is your father? I think about him a lot. Do you really think the devil is out there a lot? That's your truth. Your mama died. You heard her words, her warnings. You think she was crazy because she saw a wolf? Saw him coming? He's not out there. He's already here." And he walks off, and thunder hits. Michael now calls his family and he says he doesn't feel nothing here. And Louise is in the goat shelter. Michael now asks, "How is the babies, his two little girls? Give them a hug for me and tell them that I love them and I love you." Now back at the goat shelter, Luis is reading from the diary. He is watching. He waits. He is everywhere. The wind chimes. It starts to shake, and the rain is pouring down in the middle of the night. She calls out for Michael as the thunder and rain hits. Hello? Is somebody there? A shadow appears from behind her as she walks back into the house, where she sits outside with Michael on the porch. She wasn't crazy, Louise says, and I'm not crazy. What if she did see something out there? I saw something out there, Michael says, and it wasn't a fucking dream. I wasn't imagining things because that don't happen. And he pointed out to where he saw her, and he says, Mom was standing right there. I saw her through the window last night, but it wasn't her. It was fucking scary. Louise, it can't be real. Then wolves start howling and the wind picks up. Scratching at their front door wakes up Michael, and he walks out of his room and he sees Louise standing looking at the front door. There is something out there, and the scratching continues, and the wolves are howling. They slowly walk over to the window, Michael does, and he pulls over the curtain, and then he sees the priest standing outside in the pouring rain in the middle of the night. He says, you should come outside. It's the priest, Michael says to Louise. What the hell? And he opens the door. Come outside. It's like 3 a.m. Come outside. You can't just show up here. And he's breathing heavily. And Louise says, wait. Why wait? Louise grabs a flashlight and then she shines it and points at the priest, and his eyes are all rolled back and white. He says, you want some more rope? The phone rings, and they both look at the phone and they turn back, and the priest is gone. Where did he fucking go? Fucking Michael goes outside and he walks up and down and he looks, and he's not out here. The phone is still ringing. Louise goes to answer it, and Michael says, don't fucking answer it. She picks it up and hangs it right back, and then she takes the line off of it. Michael walks back inside Charlie's house, where he's the one that's been trying to call them. He's like, Michael, pick up. And the wolves are howling outside of his house. He hears thud and creaking coming from outside of his room. He yells out, who's there? And he grabs his shotgun and he starts loading it. He walks out of his room and down the hallway, where he sees Louise standing in a dress that her mother made for her. She has a knife. He says, get out of here. You don't belong here. You go now. All right, demon, go. She starts stabbing herself in the face. She has cuts all over her body. Then she stabs herself in the chest, and then in the arm, and then in the wrist. And he falls to his knees. He says, what do you want? Just say it. With a low and high-pitched scream, as the demon is whispering in his ear, you did this to me. And Louise, the demon, slices her throat, and blood flows down her chest. And Charlie puts the shotgun in his mouth and blows his head off. Saturday. Louise and Michael are outside and are saying there's no tracks, there's no footprints. Did Charlie even meet the guy? Charlie hasn't answered his phone in 2 days. He wasn't just standing out there waiting for me. You saw his face, didn't you? You saw it. It can't be real. They decide to call a doctor to move their father to the hospital because they can't stay there anymore. They let the goats out into the pasture. And then Luis goes and calls the phone number that the priest gave her and asks why he visited the farm the prior night. The man answers the phone, claims to have never met, and says that he lives in Chicago and has never been to Texas. He said, "How did you know I had a daughter named Louise? She killed herself a long time ago. Why would you do that?" "Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't mean. You sound just like her." She hangs up the phone. The doctor shows up to the house and he determines that their father is in grave condition and moving him would be unwise because he most likely will die en route. Now back at the farm, Luis and Michael find their large herd of goats have been brutally killed. The two start a bonfire to dispose of the numerous animal carcasses. That night, Michael is approached in the barn by an apparition of his new mother, singing, "Every trials have temptations. Is there trouble everywhere?" He says this is not real as she slowly walks towards him. Then she disappears right as soon as she gets to him. He has his knife in his hand, and then she appears behind him and scares him, and he falls on his back, and the knife just misses his throat. Michael now walks back into the house where he heads straight to his room, and he sits on the edge of his bed holding his knife and looking at Luisa's room. Later that night, Luisa is lying in bed beside her father. The demon crawls on the bed and starts to take the father's breath away. As she is lying there petrified, the demon is growling. She turns and her father is gone. And she looks up and she witnesses her father levitating against the ceiling. And he reaches out towards her with one hand and says, "Run away!" And she wakes up in the morning and her father is laying next to her. Sunday. Luis now calls out for Michael, and then she goes into his room, but he is gone. Knocking comes from the front door, and it startles Luis, and she screams a little bit, "Hello," from a young girl. And as she opens up the door, she says, "I heard screaming." She's like, "No, it's okay. I don't know if you remember me, but I am Charlie's granddaughter. I was little when we met. We've been trying to call you, but there's no answer." "Yeah, it's because we unplugged the phone. My mom, I guess, she wanted someone here to tell, well, my grandpa, he died. He shot himself 2 days ago." "Wait, what? I don't understand. Charlie is dead? We thought you should know. I thought I would come over and see you. I'm sorry about your mama. You should come inside. Do you need help, Luis? I have to check on my dad. Come. I'm glad someone is here. Good morning." "Well, just do you smell him?" "I bet you do. I smell him too. He's close now. He is rotting." Luis runs over to the room to check on her father, and she yells, "Get away from him! Get out!" And she runs back to the front door, and she is gone. But all of a sudden, she appears behind her and says, "He's rotting! All alone, all alone, all alone. Little girl!" And now Luis is curled up into a ball, and she is crying on the floor. She looks up and nobody is there. And as she looks out the front door to nothing, she shuts it. She is now calling Michael, but she is only getting his voicemail, and she is saying, "We need to get Dad out of here." The nurse walks in and says, "Sorry I'm late. How's your dad doing?" She doesn't say nothing to her, and she just looks at her phone and says, "Fuck, fuck, fuck." The nurse goes into where her father's at by the bedside and starts to pray. Luis now plugs in the landline to the back of the phone to call Michael from. And this time he answers it. "I'm sorry. Where are you? I woke up and you were gone. I think something happened to Charlie. Where are you?" "I'm driving. Drove all night. I wasn't gonna stay there anymore." "No, no, you didn't just really leave me here. Tell me you didn't just. Why did you? Why didn't you come and talk to me?" "I knew you would say no. You left me. I love Becky and I love my two little girls, but I'm still here. They're my life. Why? We can save him. He is gone, and you need to save yourself." And now the nurse is sewing a blanket, and she hears all this, and a spider crawls across her face. Moments later, the nurse is possessed by the entity, and she begins stabbing herself with a pair of sewing needles. And then she attacks Luis in the process before stabbing herself in both of her eyes, and she kills herself and dies. And you hear a voice saying, "I am always here." Michael now walks into his house, and he's calling out for Becky and his little girls, and he's walking around room to room. He comes to the kitchen where he sees both of his girls at the table with blood flowing down their lifeless bodies, and Becky lying on the ground dead, holding a knife. Michael now looks at both of his girls and he starts to cry, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." And he pulls out a knife and he looks at both of them for the last time. And then he cuts his throat from ear to ear, and blood starts flowing out of his neck, and he's slowly dying. He looks up at the table and his girls are gone, and he looks down at the floor and Becky, she is gone. The garage door opens up and Becky and his two little girls walk in and sees him lying there dead. Now back at the farmhouse, the phone is ringing while Luis is slowly waking up on the floor after being attacked by the nurse. And she's thinking, she says to herself, "I have to go," and she needs to get out of here. But she looks back at her father's room and she wants to get back there before he dies so he doesn't die all alone. As she gets to his side, she says, "I am here. I am here." And then you hear Michael scream, "Luis, are you there? Help me, Luis. Help me, please." And then she yells, "Get away from me." As father takes his last breath, she hears footsteps slowly coming closer to her. Behind her, she says, "Don't leave me, Daddy. Don't leave, Daddy, Daddy." Mother starts singing Trials and Temptations. Is there trouble anywhere? Mama, what a friend we have in Jesus. And then she gets attacked by the demon and he takes her soul. The end. Alright, man, that was a fun one right there to get through with the demon in the shadows taking over a family and making sure that nobody gets away. Even when Michael thought he can get away, he didn't, man. And that was fucking crazy. That's going to stick with me forever because I do have two little girls myself. And that is just was hard to watch. And then I knew something was going on when he fucking kills himself and they disappear. I'm like, I knew it, man. The demon is messing with his mind, making you see things that aren't real. And if that is, true shit, if demons can make you really do that, then that is terrifying as hell because you don't know what is real life and what's reality and what's not, man. So, yeah, overall, fucking pretty good story. The seclusion of the house in Texas in a farm, like you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, really hits home. And the director of The Strangers, the first one, did this one, wrote and directed it. So, hell yeah, man. And I will still hold, I think I'm gonna give this one an 8 out of 10. That means damn good movie. Hell yeah, and I will watch it again. So thank you all for joining me in the Haunted Basement Studio. Remember to stab that like button with the sub, just like Michael does. And later.